Hi, this is Michael, and I'd like to tell you a story. Actually, I'd like to tell you two stories, but they both kind of come together, so bear with me. The first one is a story of being out with my wife having dinner not too long ago. We're having dinner, we just gotten served our drinks and put our orders in when I felt that little buzz in my pocket. And I reached in to see what it was. And what it was a client of mine saying, "Hey, I know it's late. My apologies. Do you have a minute to talk?" Now I knew this client. This client, they're smart, they're strong, they're successful, they're accomplished. They wouldn't be reaching out this late. It was especially late for them if there wasn't something going on. So I found a quiet spot, picked up my phone, gave them a call. Suffice it to say, they'd run into a problem with one of their colleagues that had really thrown them for a loop, very unexpected behavior, caused some real conflict, and really was jeopardizing a number of important things. And they just weren't sure how to proceed. So we stopped, we talked about what outcomes are we looking for. We got clear on that, took a few breaths, and then said, okay, here's a couple of frameworks and models we've been working with around relationships and conflict. Let's apply those here and see what we get out of it. And we walked through that. We got to a place where we got done and they said, thank you. I'm ready for tomorrow. I've made some choices. I know what I need to do. And I hung up and I sat down and I felt good. A couple of weeks before that, I was in an airplane and I wasn't in a big jet airline flying somewhere for work. I was a little tiny Cessna 172 that was built in 1958 because I'm learning how to fly. And I was with my certified flight instructor, my CFI, and we had spent the afternoon doing landings, which is probably, at least for me and for most new pilots, the most nerve-wracking part, because that's the part where you're, hitting the ground, but trying to do it in a way that you walk away from it. And so we'd done a lot of landings and I was tired. I wasn't too tired to fly, but I was tired enough to kind of stop the process and head home for the day. And as we're heading home, I turned over to ask my CFI a question. I don't remember what the question was, but I remember his response because he looked at me and he said, "It's a great question." And as he said that, he reached over and pulled the throttle out and put the engine down to an idle. And he said, "But you've just lost your engine. What are you going to do?" So immediately I thought, well, I don't want to die. So, and even though I knew it wasn't real, that the engine was at idle and could be started up again, I thought, okay, if this were a real situation, what would I do? So I immediately pitched the aircraft for the best glide, knowing that was the first step to keep me up in the air longer. And then I went through a checklist that I had memorized to try all the different things that might be normally wrong that would start that engine again in the vast majority of cases. I went through all that so I could show him I knew how to do it and in the right order. And then I said, "Did that fix it?" He looked at me and said, "Nope, you did everything right, but unfortunately, it's still dead. What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to have to land this airplane." He goes, "Yes, you are." And so we went through the process. I found a field that looked reasonable. I figured out what the kind of right approach would be. I got into my downwind, turned my base leg and made my approach and was coming down towards that field, not knowing if he was actually going to have me land in the field or not. But about 50 feet, maybe 100 feet above, he said, "Okay." And he put the throttle back and he said, "Let's go ahead and climb back up to cruising altitude and head for home." He goes, "I'm satisfied." He goes, "I'm satisfied that had you landed in that field, you would have walked away and you would have survived that engine failure. Good job." Now, why do I tell you that story and then tell you the story about the client? It's because in reflecting on those two, I realized that they both illustrate the same point, that we need help in learning all the time and that we're facing emergency situations all the time. Now, the emergency situation in that little Cessna is a lot different from the emergency situations we're facing in business. But I got to tell you, I talked to so many leaders who I think are flying planes, their organizations, and they're facing emergencies of multiple sorts every day. And when that happens, when you're faced with an emergency, had I been faced with that that engine emergency, a couple of months ago, I would have said, I don't know. What do I do? What do I do? And I would have asked for help and I would have been kind of, panicky because I wouldn't have known how to do it. But in the meantime, my CFI taught me some models and frameworks. And while it was a bit nerve-wracking, I applied those and I was able to do what I needed to do. I didn't do it all perfectly, but I did it well enough and I'm getting better. When I think about my best client relationships, that's what's happening. I'm working with them. I'm starting out by saying, okay, what is it you want to learn? Where do you want to go? Why do you want to do this? Great. Let's talk about some tools and some frameworks and some things that will get you there. And they learn those with me. And really, when they call and we have discussions, we apply them together, or I facilitate the application of them until they start to learn them a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and need my help a little less. But I find that with all the emergencies they're facing, they kind of need a lot more fly along as we go forward, because they need that time to think, that time to de-escalate, that time to take the emotion out of it, and that time to get clear on their thoughts and make good choices. So really what I do with most of my clients is I'm their CFI. I'm helping them make those decisions. I'm helping them figure out how to move forward, and I'm helping them manage those emergencies without getting caught up in the emotion, without getting caught up in the drama, and without just reacting and doing things that seem good, but actually aren't the right steps to get them where they want to go safely. You see, here's my question. With all that is at stake, the money, the people, the capital, the reputation of the company, why do we take senior leaders and put them in these positions when unfortunately we're all inadequate to the task, because the task is too complicated, the changes are coming too fast, and the emergencies are happening everywhere? But yet somehow we feel that moving into a place of learning as opposed to knowing makes us seem inadequate, like we're not doing the job. For me, the leader that has someone fly along and helps them think through the problems is the one that succeeds the most. That's certainly what I've seen. And that's certainly what my clients tell me is the most valuable thing we do, is preserve that thinking time and build ways for them to make better decisions faster and not get tripped up and caught up in the danger and the emotion and the risk when the emergencies happen. If that sounds like something you could use, or if there's someone that you know that you think could use that, I'd be happy to have an introduction to them. I take on a handful of clients in a year, maybe 2, 3 at the max. And generally clients stay with me for a while, roll off after that, after we've kind of moved through and they've really learned a lot. And we just sort of do some flybys once in a while to keep things going. You know, the fact of the matter is that we are all inadequate to the task of dealing with the emergency life that we have in modern corporations. And we need help, and we need to learn, and we need to build our learning muscle actively, proactively, and with help. So if you know someone that needs that help, or that might be you, feel free to reach out, see if we're a good fit. Maybe I can be the CFI that you need. And if not, maybe I can refer you to the person who will be in my network. But regardless of who you do it with, if you reach out to me, if I connect you with someone else, or if you just go out on your own, don't fly alone. Don't face the emergencies on your own. You need to have someone to sit in the chair next to you and help you make the decisions you need to make in the best way that you can.